All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in for another episode here on Real Living. We are glad that you have taken a moment to participate today. It is Thanksgiving, and it is our prayer, our hope that you are enjoying your family during this beautiful holiday season. And we wanted to take a moment and jump on it. It is a time for families to come together, to enjoy each other, and it's a time of Thanksgiving. And we have family in town this week. My brother and his family are here, and we're delighted that he is with us. Matter of fact, joining us today on the podcast. It's rare, but we have landed at the same table.
That's right.
And we were talking before the show, or maybe even yesterday, that it would be neat for us to sit down and just record something. We grew up in this town. We've had a lot of life experiences here, and I thought it would be cool to just be casual, sit around the table, and chat about whatever comes to mind. But thanks for coming. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. And I'm not only your brother, I'm a fellow podcaster myself.
That's right.
So we've been talking about, I think your setup's a little more luxurious than mine. Mine's a little more mobile.
We've had a lot of help.
Yeah, and you've been doing it, I think, a lot longer than we have. We've only maybe celebrating a year anniversary. So, and mine's more geared for one of the side jobs I have.
Yeah,
so we're dealing
with
state politics and those types of things. So
just a little insignificant role that you play.
Hey, I think you're speaking to some significant things that folks, universally deal with. So, yeah. But thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad you're here. So if we look disheveled, it's because we had a little opportunity to do a little outdoor activity.
That's right.
About midday. It was supposed to be cooler, but ended up being a bit hotter outside. And anyway, nonetheless, we had a great time outside and enjoying the
got some birds.
Together. Yeah.
Got maybe some apps for before the big bird celebration tomorrow.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say all that, but yeah.
Oh, I will.
We don't know who's listening.
But yeah, we had a good time. Speaking of family, we got to fellowship with you and I and your son and my nephew. So yeah, we had a great time.
So the podcast is Real Living because we generally talk a lot of Bible content and Bible-based topics, but I can't think of anything more Bible-based than family and the experiences that we've had growing up. We're probably, if you're looking at it from a Christian perspective, weren't ideal, but from a worldly perspective is probably about average.
Well, and I think it runs to some of the things that you read about in James, talking about, that resilience building the spiritual muscle. Yeah. And we got that resilience in the real world, growing up. And that's sort of built our character and sort of how we respond to challenges, I think, even today. Yeah. And so, it's like I tell my Sunday school class up in Rock Hill, I say, look, and I try to relate it to teenager, high school level, of which my daughter is a part.
What is the class? What age
It's just
group?
high school.
Okay.
So 9th through 12th graders.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
And I always, have a Bible in my hand, and I said, hey, look, this is your roadmap to life. Yeah. Okay. And so I said, all right, everybody pull out your iPhone. Yeah. Go to your maps, and we're going to Disney World. And, it'll tell them 8.5 hours, this, that, and the other. I said, this is your Bible. Yeah. Right? This is for a healthy spiritual life. Mm-hmm. Keys to success right here. Yeah. That blue line on your phone that takes you to Disney World, that's what this Bible. Yeah. Right? Now, you can choose to take an off-ramp. Yeah. You can choose to get detoured by good or bad, by bad decisions. But, but trying to make it relatable to them. So
it's good. It's good. I wanted to, I think I mentioned to you, I wanted to talk a little bit about, we've grown up now. We've got our own families. Kids are growing up. Mine are, upper teenagers now, and you have a daughter that's kind of middle teenager somewhere.
15, going on 16, or I should say 15, going on 26.
She's driving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, driving.
Yep.
And then you have two younger boys.
8 and 10.
8 and 10.
Right in the thick of it.
Yeah,
so.
that's right. And I want to talk about life and expectations, and then sometimes how things come in your life that you weren't expecting. And then I know you've had some of those things that's happened.
As we all have. Sure.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But specifically because we have people that will listen, and no doubt they're going through some similar experiences. And I remember, and I can't remember if it was before Ben was born or if it was after. Was it before? Y'all knew what was going to happen?
No, we did not.
You did not?
No.
Okay. So it was a total surprise.
Yes.
In that you did not know.
Something that we were not pragmatically prepared for or mentally prepared for. So, you know, and in my podcast, I always joke around for the 2 listeners out there. What my brother Ryan's referring to is my second child, Ben, was born with Down syndrome.
Right.
We were not prepared.
Yeah.
You know, through the expecting phase of pregnancy, you I'm sure all the mothers and fathers out there, especially the mothers, go through all of these checkups, and there's all these options of they can do a lot of testing, and they did offer that to us, but for us and the way we conduct ourselves, it wouldn't have mattered if we were going to have a typical healthy baby or an atypical health. You know what I mean? And so that was never, and it never even, prior to having been, it never even dawned on us to, hey, if we do have a baby that is atypical, whether it was whatever the special needs would have been, it may have helped to have been prepared, because I do remember vividly when Ben was born and the doctors sort of hem-hawing around, and you could tell that the doctors knew like a secret and they were reluctant to tell us. And them not being transparent and straightforward put us on our heels initially. And he had some complications, a blood infection, some other things, but I think it took us 3 days to really pick ourselves off the floor.
Wow.
Just from the emotional roller coaster that it was. And part of that could have maybe been mitigated if we were prepared.
Yeah. I don't think you can really fully prepare for that. I know what you're talking about, but you can't, and I'm speaking totally without any experience, but I don't know that you can totally be prepared for that. And,
no. And I tell people, I'm kind of ashamed of how I responded. Initially, looking back on it now, I thought the world had ended. You know what I mean?
Well, sure. I mean,
it was earth shaking.
Yeah.
You're speaking of expectations earlier. The expectation for a young, happy married couple is to have healthy, typical children. And so not, that just popped that balloon for us. And it was a life unfamiliar. Yeah. But nonetheless rewarding, right? And that's why I say I was kind of ashamed of how I responded to that initially. Yeah. But after those first 72 hours, my wife and I, and God puts these people in your life at a certain time in your life when you need them. And my wife has been my life partner for now a little over 20 years. Yeah. And I'm forever thankful for that, because we really, challenges in your life, whether it's in a marriage or a job or a childhood even, can show some things about yourself.
Absolutely. It brings it to the surface.
And especially in a marriage, and too, you've been married what now? 22?
Almost 21, yeah.
21. Challenges can, create cracks and fissures in relationships, or they can bind you together. And that's what it did for us. Yeah. It strengthened our family over the long term.
Well, that goes to being careful who you choose to marry.
100%.
So, and it's been so long now, I can't remember, but I guess you called me or and
yep, because we went radio silent there for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it left
as soon as I found out, I think I just drove up there.
Yes,
I remember correctly.
I think initial family, I think mom,
yeah,
Zach and Judy, the in-laws were there, but we did a radio blackout. I mean, and people were, hey, and that is one of those things that, you don't realize that when you're taking time for yourself, that sometimes
it's necessary,
right? Is 100% necessary, but then there's other things that happen, and so that goes to having a family support structure that can step in for you and help support you when you're down too. You know, so going back to make your choices wisely when it comes to getting married, man. When you're looking for that life partner, it's top 3 most important decisions.
Okay, so life has gone on, and now it's, I would say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you would probably say, and this is a conversation here, it's been one of the most rewarding experiences in parenting,
100%,
you having kids.
Well, in just, God's got a way of bringing you to the person that He created you to be. Fulfilling a purpose that He's created for you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's nonverbal. It's those nonverbal cues.
For sure.
And I am a better person. Because not only did we have Ben, we then 2 years later had Asher.
I was going to get to that, but
okay.
We'll get there in a minute.
And so our family, my children, have made me a better father.
Absolutely.
A better dad than I could have ever hoped to have been. The perspectives of raising my children. Mm-hmm. Every time you have a child, you get a chance to be reborn yourself. Your outlook, the way you approach, the way you approach life, the way you approach your relationships in your life. And then also you start prioritizing what's important to you because of your kids, right? Because it used to be you and your wife, and then comes the first kid. And then it's you, your wife, your job, and the kid. And so, proper balancing. Kids bring a lot of perspective that, we're better humans because of our kids.
So, Ben is a bundle of joy. He is the life of the party. And life. So what's the difference? What's the age difference between Ben and Asher?
So
is it 3 years?
Almost a full 2. So Asher was born in. So if Ben was June of 14, Asher was March of 16 because he came early.
All right, so almost 2 years. So, so not only did
just about how the distance between you and I. We're not a full 2 years.
Right. So not only Ben's born and you go through that initial experience, and then we got this, and
you start stabilizing the ship, getting back into routine,
and then boom, we're gonna have another baby. Talk about, because you it's got to be somewhere in the back of your brain. Okay, what do we have in here?
So we find out we're having another son. And
all the checkups were fine, and
everything's good. And I remember the morning I had actually fallen asleep putting our daughter to bed, Emma, and Kristen comes and wakes me up, and it's 10 or 11 weeks early.
Oh, wow.
And says, hey, I'm having, some pain. And so we rushed to the hospital, and 30 minutes later.
Oh, wow.
Asher's born. He was, 10 weeks early.
So that, I didn't even know some of those details.
We had to call because no relatives lived close, because our in-laws actually had gone out of the country.
Oh, wow.
So our closest grandparents
were 3 hours away or 2 hours away.
At that point, because my wife's parents were out of the country on a Caribbean cruise type thing. So we literally had to call an aunt.
Oh, wow.
She was the closest. She was 10 minutes away. It's like, hey, can you get here? And she, came over. We rushed to the hospital. And then off to the races.
So then, but everything, up to that point, everything was fine. Testing and everything was fine.
Yep.
Even
comes 10 weeks early. he's got a little bit of a brain bleed.
Yeah.
Which at the time, they just they monitored.
Yeah.
But everything was fine.
Yeah.
And
so it wasn't until a couple days later, maybe
we are still unsure of actually how it was sustained.
Okay.
We don't know if it was something because and ultimately we found out that Asher had suffered brain damage to the white matter of his brain.
Right.
And
sometime
either during, because again, I don't think they're testing like brain function at all when you're that.
Yeah.
And doctors speculated he had a sleep apnea spell at some point. Maybe when he was just home.
Oh, wow.
Not on him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we couldn't tell.
We don't know. Yeah.
And that's just one of those things that, another curveball.
Yeah.
So now basically my 3 children are Emma, perfectly typically healthy.
Yeah.
Then we had Ben, who was born with Down syndrome, and then Asher,
right,
who had suffered some brain damage.
And we're not. This discussion is to highlight that not that one. These are your children. These are creating the image of God, and you've indicated how much I've grown through this experience and become who I've become, better parent, better husband, all of those things. And my point in discussing this with you really is to highlight the fact that even though these things happen to people, God's not surprised by it. And there are others out there hearing this story is going to be encouraged and be helped to know that, hey, God's going to help me get through whatever I'm going through.
Oh yeah. Well, I there's that phrase that folks use that God never gives you too much that you can't handle, which, after my experience just with my children and just the ongoing experience, and for anyone who hears this story, I think that's a lie.
Yeah.
I think that's something that, maybe an uneducated or someone who maybe just didn't have a life experience of challenge and some hardship, because I think it's more along the lines of, or maybe not, I shouldn't say uneducated, but it's just something that I think God gives you more than you can handle, so you remember that He is with you. He is essential.
That's right.
To take those next steps, to get up and face the day.
For sure. That reminds me, I was just studying recently and reading that when Jesus was being led to be crucified, the Bible says that those Roman soldiers compelled a man named Simon
come out
to carry his cross.
Right.
And so even Jesus, who is to be crucified for the sins of the whole world, somebody helped him carry his cross.
Yeah.
And so you could look at it that there are things in life that happen to us that are greater than what we can bear, because you weren't meant to bear them by yourself.
Right. And
that God puts people in your lives to help you, family, friends.
Well, and also a reminder too, if your business is super successful, if your marriage is just on cloud 9, your kids are just making straight A's, and you're not experiencing any hardship. Sometimes you're like, man, I'm bad. I am just the man,
Oh, for sure.
And so I think some experiencing a little bit of challenges and hardship also bring you back down to earth, pride before the fall type, and so maybe that's God's way of keeping you faithfully balanced in your life. So.
All right, so now let's back up a bit. It's Thanksgiving, anytime during Thanksgiving you got family together and reminiscing about, things that happened in your life or
this is usually when the big brother hyperbolic stories come out.
No, I don't have anything in mind. I thought maybe you would.
You used to beat me in sports all the time and beat me up, and you were the angel and I was
no,
no, I'm just teasing.
No, yeah. Well,
I mean, I was a better athlete, by the way.
Yeah. I do remember the 2x4.
That was one time.
Yeah.
Hey, I told you once. No. Brothers, man.
So we grew up when we didn't have these things. We didn't have phones.
No.
We grew up in an era when we got home from school, of course we had homework. Sometimes we did it, and sometimes we didn't.
Yeah.
But we couldn't wait to get outside.
100%.
And it was either playing basketball, the neighbors down the street. It was street football. Remember the street football?
Whatever sport was in season, right? Usually in the falls, we were throwing the pigskin around.
This is a funny story. I remember playing street football. You remember Josh, the white-haired kid?
Oh, Drake, yeah.
Yeah. What's his last name?
Josh Drake.
Really? Okay. So we're playing football, and anytime you're playing football in the street, that's probably not the smartest thing to be doing. Anyway, this particular day,
we were made tough.
I don't remember if I was quarterback or who was. All I remember is Josh, he went out for a pass. He turns around, and he's the guy that catches the ball. Well, I guess he doesn't realize or remember where he was in the street, but he turns around and just plows over a mailbox.
Yes. Yep. And folks, I know we're mostly going to be on audio. I don't know if this is going to be on video.
It is video.
Okay. Our neighborhood was such that there was the street which we were playing in, and that was usually for cars. But as
sometimes
knuckleheaded kids would have it, we would play football in the street.
Yep.
Then there was a little bit of a swale of grass, maybe 4 feet wide. Then there was sidewalk.
Yeah.
And then there was the house's front yard. Yep. So we would play football where you could check the receiver into the little 4-foot stretch of grass. So there was a time or two that we'd be coming home scraped up, and but all the wiser for it. But yeah, I do. I mean, man, I remember all the silly things.
I think he was the guy that coined the phrase, or at least in my mind at the time, it's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye.
Man, I mean, the stuff that we came up with, I mean, I remember taking a BMX bicycle, a ski rope.
Wait, explain. So the name brand of a bike back then was BMX. I mean, that was the bike to have.
Yeah.
That or what was the other one?
I don't know. We had that banana seat bike too.
No, that was even before that.
But we literally would take, if you can think of water skiing, we would take a bicycle as the boat and a skateboard as the person on skis. Yep. And we would tie a rope underneath the seat, and one of us would jump on the skateboard and the other one would get on the bike and start.
Okay, I got a funny story about the banana bike that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Remember when we lived in the rent house in the middle of town?
Yeah.
Dan Myler.
Myler, yeah.
Yeah. Was it Dan Myler? Yeah, Dan Myler. So I think it was a little moist that day, maybe a little wet. And we decide that we're going to double up on this banana bike. Yeah. And we get to the top of the street.
Again, let's explain to the listener what a banana bike is. It's a normal bike, but it's got a seat.
A seat's about a mile long.
That 2 kids could fit on it.
Yeah, and the handlebars were
a little.
It went like that, really.
Like the horns of a bull.
Yeah, perfect example.
Yep.
So we get to the top of the street and we start heading down, and we get near the end and we spot this mattress on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know how to stop the bike.
Yeah.
We were that young.
I think feet dangling and all that kind of stuff.
So we didn't know how to stop the bike. Yeah. I mean, all we had to do was push it backwards. That was back then when you push the pedals backwards and put the brakes on. I don't think they do that anymore.
No.
So we're riding down this road and I'm like, hey man,
got to bail.
I don't know what to do.
Hey, got to hit the eject button.
So there's that. I said, look, when we get to the mattress, let's just dive off. Let's bail. Yeah. So that's what we did. Yep. As soon as we got close to that, man, I remember, that was a tumble that I'll never forget.
Oh, man. Yeah, and so those types of stories, those types of, sharing of memories is definitely, coincides with the turkey nap. Maybe a Dallas Cowboy football game. They're going to lose, by the way.
I don't really care.
They're not having a good season. Or Detroit Lions.
Right.
Yep.
I don't even know who they are, but anyway, they're a football team.
Yep.
Yeah. So the other memory in that house that I remember, there's a lot of them, but I remember in that house, our older brother would take us outside in the yard, and he's a bit older. He's 8 years older than me, 10 years older than you. Yeah. So he would take us out in the yard, and we would play football.
Oh, yeah.
And he would pad us up. In other words, he'd put football pads on us.
They played like City League football.
And he would take his football pads
and put a
shoulder
helmet
pads
on
and helmets and put it on us. And he would be
all-time QB.
All-time QB. Is that what we called it? Yeah. And he would have us go out for, I mean, he was like coaching us. He would be.
Yeah, he was a teenager. We were.
Yeah, like 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And so he would encourage us, come on, hit him with the pads.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd do stuff like, come on. I mean, of course, we know he was just the ideal quarterback, right? And he threw perfect passes. And
if it touched your hands,
you touch it, you can catch it.
Yep.
Dive, man, dive for the ball.
He was very
crazy.
I mean, he was probably our first football coach, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our two older brothers were definitely the
same brother had taken ninja stars, the metal ninja stars, and he would, man, we're getting really down into stuff here. But
I mean, you're basically telling
the
stories.
Walls,
yes, sheetrock.
The sheetrock in the house with these ninjas. I call them ninja stars. I don't know what they are, but
throwing stars.
Throwing stars, yeah. Needless to say, Mom didn't appreciate that.
I tell you, God bless our mom. I mean, just telling some of these stories, I'm just like,
all right, I got another one.
See,
same house. Remember, it was 2-story, right? So you come in the front door and then just jog to the right and you go up the stairs, up and then up again. Well, at the top of the banister, he would tie us up with ropes and lower us over the banister.
We were spelunking
from the
at 5 years old.
It was the initial, I guess, maybe ingenuity behind what did they do? The bungee jumping.
Oh yeah.
But this was
this is a
full trust
classic,
in an older brother.
This is a classic life story with brothers. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I have, and you do too. I have a daughter, and then I have 2 boys, and and every child's going to be different, but especially boys and girls, like energy levels and things that they do. Boys are just 100 miles an hour running to a wall.
Yep.
Whereas the girl will say, well, I'm going to run to the wall. There's a door right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think boys are just learn by doing, whereas my daughter, and I'm speaking just my own, my daughter will take a little bit of guidance.
Yeah.
Or she'll ask some questions.
Yep.
Before she goes and navigates.
Yeah, diving off the edge of the pool.
Experience. Right. And that's just a classic example of the difference in boys and girls.
So, we would ride our bikes through the neighborhood. It didn't matter if it was a time when be home by dark. Yeah. 100%. We would ride all over the neighborhood. We would we would get home just in time to eat, maybe take a bath every now and again. Yeah.
And fall asleep.
Yep.
Exhausted.
I mean, I remember we would get with friends. I don't know if it was I don't remember now, but we would get with friends and we'd go to the neighborhood pool at night.
Yes.
And we would climb the fence. I don't recommend this, y'all, but we would climb the fence and we'd swim. Yeah. Yeah, pitch black. Or we would go to the same area.
In the summers.
Yeah, in the same area. It was wooded, right? So
had some fields, mixed woods.
Yeah, but it was perfect for bottle rocket wars.
Yes. Yeah. And for those parents out there riding along with kids.
We don't recommend.
Earmuffs. Don't let your kids hear this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would, back in the day, we would do things that we would not recommend.
Exactly. My point in saying all this is that we were outside and we had fun.
Constantly.
And it was a blast.
Yeah.
And I tried to get my kids out when they were younger, and they loved it. Loved being outside.
Yeah.
Loved playing in the dirt. And I'm hoping we can turn some things around and we can get off the social media and the screens and get outside again.
And I remain optimistic myself. My daughter just got a cell phone, so it was always the rule in my house that you either have a job or you're driving, to get a phone. And
we didn't have cell phones when we were kids.
Right. And so I've held firm on that. And I remember all of my friends who were raising their kids, their kids were getting a cell phone at 8, 10 years old.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And not to say that it was unfettered access or anything, but they just got a device a lot earlier, and they were like, why don't you give them a cell phone? And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
She's going to learn to interact with people, social skills, those types of things. And she enjoys the phone. She enjoys the convenience of it. I have it locked down. She doesn't have social media and those types of things, but she can text friends for 30 minutes a day.
Yeah. Good for you.
Otherwise, I encourage her to interact. And I tell her, like, hey, call them.
Yeah.
Talk to them on the phone.
For sure.
So yeah, I mean, raising kids these days is it's just a different environment. Not to say it's more or less fraught with pitfalls and ditches and, just challenges, or dangers.
It's just the time we live in.
It's just different.
It's different. It's the time we live in. When we were kids, we had Nintendo.
Yeah.
That was
just coming on.
That was the rage. I remember, I think I may have been 12 or 13 when we first got our first Nintendo system.
Super Mario Brothers.
Back when it was Super Mario Brothers. And
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Other games came along later. But anyway, well, we're glad that you are here. We're going to enjoy some turkey and whatever
festivities.
Else we can get in.
I'm sure we can get some street football in.
I'm doubtful. I'm doubtful.
I don't know. We've played out back here a few times.
Yeah, but it's grass and
in a backyard.
And my shoulder joints
I know.
don't quite agree with that kind of activity anymore. But anyway, we're glad you're here, man. We're thankful that you took a moment to jump on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was a rush job here, rag tag in here, and we're glad you're here. All right, we're gonna have to end it there, and we'll
thanks for having me.
Pick it up again another time. Thanks for coming.
All right.
Yes, sir.
What's up, everybody? This is producer Nathan. Hope you like what you hear. If you do, be sure to like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you know when a new episode drops. We'll see you on the next one.